Greetings, friends. It's Denise again with Denise's Dancing Paintbrush and a new collage. I just finished this first part of this one. I started with a photo reference that I found online, but as you can see, I liked one girl, but not the other. She's got her head down, her pose is not very engaging. And so I decided to cut and paste another girl in her place. In Photoshop, I can do that. I can actually make changes. I can put something in that wasn't there. I even changed the mouth on the girl on the right to have a little bit more of a smile. So I took this girl on the left out of this photo, kind of cut around her, and then pasted her into the drawing. But I also kept the water. But you can see her face isn't showing, so I had to get another girl and cut her head out and put it in the place of the girl whose face isn't showing. And now it looks like I have an engaging composition. Even though there are parts that aren't working, like, you know, there's a little piece of a foot showing there in the middle in the water. That's all right. That's not going to bother me. So I get my paper out and I begin by drawing my reference onto my backing paper. This is actually a watercolor paper. It was a cheap grade of watercolor paper, so I don't mind just gluing onto it instead of painting on it. And I sketch in the girls. I think I like this pose very much. It looks very natural. The girls look like they're doing something little girls would be doing, fishing for pretty rocks or tadpoles or whatever. And the background isn't too detailed that it would take away from my main subject. So I start with the background. I want it to imply trees, but I'm not going to put any real details into it, just the appropriate colors and maybe even a few light colored tree trunks. I want the foreground to be the main subject. As always, I'm using magazines, old wall calendars, flyers that come in the mail, anything that has the appropriate weight to the paper and the value and the color that I want. I'm using rubber cement to glue my pieces in place because it does not cause the paper to warp and buckle. You can see from the light bouncing off of the paper that this is a semi-gloss paper, and I like that. I like that it has its own sheen to it. Now, to give the implication of distance, I'm going to make it very, very pale on the land, on the ground up there at the top close to the trees, and make it get darker as it gets closer to us. That's called atmospheric perspective. Gives the implied tone that it's far away and you're looking through a lot of air, atmosphere. As things get closer, they get darker and more crisp and deeper in hue. As I stand back and look at it, though, there are parts where the transition between the light color in the furthest back and the medium color next to it, it's too harsh a transition. I need a lighter color somewhere in between the lightest light and that darkest dark. I'll have to look for that later. As you can see, I have two cameras set up, but one camera has been giving me some trouble. It didn't record half of the process here with the background, and so I'm having to rely on just the little camera from an angle. And that happens as your cameras get older. They start getting finicky. This is the only the first part of this project. I will work on the rest of it later on. I decided not to rush and try and finish it all in one sitting. Now, as it comes down to putting in the water there at the bottom edge of the page, I'm using some torn paper to imply the movement of the water and keeping it very pale in the blues and the greens. But also there's some rocks here that my little girl is standing on. I have to make those. Some parts of the water are so pale, they look almost gray, I think. That's all right. Whatever works. If I need more ripples in the water, I can use a white or very, very pale blue. So as you can see, I've got to tear all these little pieces using my blues and my tweezers. So that's about as far as I have gotten this week. The rest will be next week. Do subscribe, it really helps my channel. And give me a thumbs up, that helps my little ego. Thanks so much for staying all the way to the end. I certainly appreciate all my subscribers. Do come again next week and see how I finish this project. Bye everyone. See you later.